Can you beat Pilgrammed using only bows? Well, yeah, but it's not going to be easy. I started by putting my sword away as a reminder not to use it. I also began mining rocks because without a sword, materials will be our only source of income. Once mined, I could sell it to this guy and store the money at the bank beside him, changed my avatar to something more fitting and continued mining more of the rocks, selling the materials and storing them at the bank. After a while, I had enough to get our first weapon, the wooden bow. Its damage is alright, but it also meant I could fight back against enemies in the cave. I still had to mine tons more of the rocks, because I'm going to buy a few more items from the archer. The first being the armor set, which boosts my arrow damage, and the second being an equipment that increases both speed and damage by 20%. While mining and fighting, I went up a few levels. I also bought the full gear from the archer, meaning that I was ready to fight the first boss, the Thief King. When the fight started, I quickly realised letting him get too close would definitely kill me, but I also had some really good damage against him. It didn't take too long and he ended up dropping 2 items, though I won't use either of them, as I don't want to deal damage with anything other than the bows. Those 2 items are a cloak that has a skill to charge dealing damage, and a ring that has a rare chance to spawn tiny thieves when I get hit. To continue in the game, it's required for me to make the bronze pickaxe, so I quickly mined a few stones around and crafted it. The next biome is the desert, and the enemies here are quite tanky. One of them had a bow that shot 3 arrows at once. There was also a huge worm that spit sandballs at me and burrowed itself under the sand. After a bit, I found the stairs to the outpost. At the bottom was a meteor raider, which I cheesed and killed from above. I got the mirror in the outpost, then used the iron I had mined earlier to craft the iron pickaxe. Before I left the desert, I wanted to fight the snake boss. I tried my best to avoid the enemies inside the temple, and soon reached the room where I'd fight the snake. It had 3 moves. The first is where it would curl up and hit me, the second would lunge towards me, and the third spat poison which could kill me if I stayed inside it. This boss took me many attempts as I kept messing up the timing to parry and dodge. Eventually I killed it and headed towards the forest. I grabbed the mirror in the forest so I could teleport there later and started going up the mountain. The enemies here are quite dangerous, so I avoided them. I once again grabbed the mirror and teleported to the desert. Going down this tunnel made me enter the volcano. I explored around and found the outpost, grabbed the mirror again and saw that I could craft the Demetal Great Bow. It needed 500 gold, 8 sulfur and 12 Demetal. I could get Demental from the rocks in the volcano and sulfur from the fire imps. I sold the equipment and spare ores I had, so it didn't take too long to craft it. With the Demetal bow, I stormed the mountains and found this walking snow bush. I killed it the same moment my game crashed. Luckily, I still got the drops. It gave me an icy flute with the ability to spawn a bushwalking mount. This thing could jump super high. Using it, I went further up the mountain. I came across this guy with a massive sword and assumed he was a boss. I used my mount to jump in a tree and cheesed the guy. He gave me a sword which I can't use, but also some hope for the next boss, the Pro Thief. He has a dagger which has the ability to teleport into an enemy, and I definitely couldn't tank the hits, so I gave up on beating him for now. At the top of the mountain was a huge ice giant, a boss called the Ice King. His abilities consisted of spawning ice on me, rolling, jumping, spawning more ice, and then spawning some more ice. And to be honest, he was really easy. Once I had finally beat him, I tried one more time at the Pro Thief. A massive turtle was inside the volcano, and I tried cheesing it, but it could still reach me even though I was so high above it. It did tons of damage in just one hit, but it was so slow that I just kept circling it. Eventually I killed it, moving on to this tall statue, which turned into a ball and rolled towards me, or smashed the ground dealing tons of damage. I attempted to fight it a few times, but my arrows most of the time didn't register, so I'm also going to be coming back to this boss later on. I went across this lake to enter the savannah, and inside its castle I grabbed the mirror. I then got a boat and sailed towards this tall peak, and at the top was a bird that took me to Cloud City. I grabbed the mirror there and teleported to the forest. I spawned in my boat again and sailed towards the observatory. Inside I grabbed the mirror and teleported back to the savannah. I farmed the mercenaries for the acute lens, which I didn't end up getting. I still got loads of levels from it, so I wasn't worried. While changing my skills, a boss called Mr. Normal spawned on me, but spawned in a wall so it couldn't hit me and I could just shoot it. When it died, it dropped 20 Chaos Essence. I farmed the mercenaries again and finally got the acute lens. Now all I needed was the sand pod antenna, which I thought you had to beat this boss for, so I took multiple attempts at killing it, only to realise you get the antenna from the little weak versions. After I got it, I saw the creepy crab and used the height of the cliff to fight it. I fought him a few more times so I could get a new bow, the Acrid longbow, which shot poison arrows at enemies. Back at the savannah, I now had the items needed to craft the sniper lens. With the sniper lens, I went to the observatory to craft the sniper scope. Now I had 3 of the equipment I wanted, and the next one I needed was from the hunters at the mountain, which have a rare chance of dropping the ranger's emblem. I was able to get it quite quickly, and now I was ready to fight the abdominal snowman. He throws ice spears that do insane frostburn and overtime damage, and I kept dying to him, so I'll try beat him later. I sailed from the forest to an island which spawned scarecrows to craft an item called the Scarecrow Hat. I had to go back to the first area and craft the wizard's hat. Then I killed scarecrows for 50 of their straw and crafted the hat. I wanted to make this armor called Patchwork, which involved me killing this slime boss for his scrap metal, 1,500 gold, 2 foul patches from the Pattress, and 25 chaos essence. Once I got them all, I crafted the armor. The next thing I wanted to do was the odd sculpture, but first I had to kill 5 bosses to activate it. 2 of them are at Big Bay, so I went there and got the mirror. Then when I tried fighting the boss, I got attacked by Mr. Normal, and ended up dying. When I respawned, I killed Mr. Normal, then I killed the first boss and went over to fight the second. It was a squid that shot cannonballs and charged towards me, but almost all his attacks I could parry, so I killed him pretty quickly. I noticed the apple at Cloud City was selling climbing claws, so I bought a pair. I also figured out how to beat Granny. For some reason the way to deal damage to her is to shoot through her legs, but once I learnt that, she was pretty easy. I then sailed over to this island and fought the Archmage, who was incredibly easy, so now we only have 1 boss left to fight. To get to the boss, I had to do a quest in the savannah, which gives you the elite armor set, and you need to wear that to get the flower from Kyle. With the flower, I sailed over to the creepy island with a fountain in the middle, and the fountain sunk into the water. Then a massive skeleton arose from beneath. It had many abilities, one where it could pull me closer if I got too far away, one where it would spawn skeletons. It would shoot purple fire stuff in the arena, and could smash me when I got too close to it. As long as I didn't get too far away, but enough distance from him and his skeletons, I could pile damage onto him, and finally I could activate the odd sculpture. So I sailed over, and stood on the huge button which started the battle. The first few bosses were quite easy, but the Mondo Squid joined up with the Cannoneers got me insanely low. I was keeping the boss alive at the end just so I could regen before the next boss. But then it hit with so much damage I just had to take it out. I was super unlucky that the next boss was the skeleton, as it did damage to me because I wasn't close enough to it. This was like my 8th try and I just couldn't beat Granny, so I'm gonna have to skip the odd sculpture. I went back and fought the abdominal snowman with a new strategy and it worked. I beat him a few times until he dropped the blizzard great bow. At the starter biome, the green apple was selling an item that increased my damage by 50% when I am below half. It might be a bit too early, but I'm going to try and fight Old Fart. To unlock his arena, I first had to go down this hole, get the mirror to the Forgotten Village, and a mirror just outside Old Fart's store. Back at the savannah, I crafted the gemstone pickaxe. Then I went to Cloud City and started the Sky Battlegrounds. Finished it and used the catapult and fought the Highway Sun, who I didn't realise had a move where if you got too far away, he says bad move and shoots millions of yellow balls. I kept trying to fight him, and I even switched my gear around, and after fighting him so many times, I had learnt his pattern. I had learnt the timings to parry and dodge, and when I could damage him back. Eventually it got to a point where I could just stand still and parry all of his moves. At the end I got a bit desperate to kill him and took loads of damage, but finally I had won. With him out the way, I could teleport to the next island. In a chest I found a glider, and I used it to fly down to this ledge to get the first medallion. The second medallion was behind this watchtower, and the third I have to get by sailing from Savannah to this island, where it's hidden behind this ledge. With all 3 of the medallions, I could open Old Fart's door. I never beat Old Fart when I had played 10 months ago, so only being able to use the bow would make it so much harder. I started by learning how to parry his attacks. And then I learned when I could hit him. Once I had the basics figured out, I was able to get him to his second phase, and he went crazy, with random lasers turning the floor into neon lava, to random coloured squares moving around the area. I kept trying, and the only thing I was struggling with was when he had the squares randomly move in all directions. I then went and changed my loadout and skills, and tried fighting him again. I can't lie, this guy took me hours, and I wasn't even recording most of the fights. So the one time I beat him, I forgot to record, and to me that just sucked. He dropped me an item called Spore Shot, which I think is a gun, so I won't use it. I returned to Big Bay so that I could fight Kai Guy to finish the video off. This guy has some insane attacks, and gives you almost no time to parry, and yeah, I can't really be arsed fighting him. What else can I do? Yeah, too easy. This video took me ages to make, so I'd really appreciate if you could like the video and subscribe.